Okay, so let me try again. This is called A Young Woman Invited a Hobo to Sit at a Cafe with Her. In 1 hour, her life changed completely. So I haven't seen this. I put it kind of towards the middle because hopefully that's when they get to the good parts. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll find out.
But the young woman reassured him that everything was fine and that he had nothing to fear. She wanted to treat him for some food and to speak with him a little. They struck up a conversation. Maybe Casey was too intrusive in her questions, but the man didn't mind and told her practically everything about himself. It turned out that the homeless man was named Chris. He told the young woman how he ended up living on the streets. Chris began his story by telling Casey that he never had a functioning family. His dad liked to drink and rarely pay attention to him, except when he hit him or his mom, which happened often. Chris ran away from home because he could no longer bear to live with a tyrant. Chris left home because he could no longer stand his dad's physical and emotional abuse. But life on the street turned out to be no better. The other homeless people were not kind to him. They took away his food and bullied him. Chris did not want to remain homeless. He wanted to change something about his life and get out of the situation in which he found himself. But doors closed on him everywhere he went. Chris said that he looked for work for several years, but was rejected each time an employer found out that he was homeless. Despair and disappointment brought him to drugs. Not a single person was willing to help him, but he would have definitely accepted help if it was offered. Everyone shied away and bypassed Chris. He would have loved to have a job, but nobody was willing to give him a chance. On top of all this, he was also upset by the fact that his loyal friend, a dog named Joe, died a few days prior. He was the one who always supported Chris and provided him with company during the long and cold evenings on the street.
And we all know how important our pets are. So important. Oh my gosh. I just love our little pets here. You know, Achilles likes to be outside and he likes to chase all the other mean cats away to protect the little kittens, and Lady, our female cat, so he thinks he's all tough. And sometimes he'll come inside and meow really loud, and that's just to get his pets, you know, to get his love and his attention. And it's so devastating. Just like if you were to lose somebody close to you, and this is devastating to lose, especially if you're out on the streets, you're already vulnerable. So to be vulnerable and then lose like the only companion who loved you for you, this is horrible. This is just horrible. I'm hoping this has a good ending.
Throughout his entire life on the street, Chris hoped to return to normative life and become the person his mom would be proud of. But alas, it seemed like this was not meant to be. The homeless man recalled that soon after he ran away from home, his mom passed away. From that moment on, he truly felt that he had nobody to rely on. It is also important to note that Chris seemed very smart. He spoke and reasoned like a well-mannered and mature adult. The man was very sad that this was how his life turned out. But at some point, he decided to just go with the flow. Casey listened to his story without interrupting him. But inside, she was experiencing a whirlwind of emotions and was barely holding back tears. She wanted to be sympathetic to Chris's story, but not to offend him with her pity. Chris talked and talked. On that day, he poured out his entire soul. Casey and Chris talked for about an hour. The conversation could have lasted even longer, but Casey had to go. Casey recalls that when she got up to leave, Chris asked her to wait a little bit. He went to the counter, asked for a pen and paper, and wrote something down. Afterwards, he approached Casey and handed her the note. After giving her the note, Chris thanked the young woman for the food and apologized for taking up a lot of her time. At that point, their fateful meeting ended. After leaving the restaurant, Casey took out the note to see what was written. When she unfolded the piece of paper, she could not believe what was inside. The note from the homeless man read, "I wanted to kill myself today, but because of you, I now do not. Thank you, beautiful person." Casey could not control her emotions, and tears rolled down her eyes. What is the value of human life? It is not the cost of a sandwich or an hour of free time. Casey was able to do so much for this stranger in a very short time. It would seem that earnest conversation is a trivial matter, but it is likely that without it, Chris would no longer be alive. A little bit of simple human interaction with an empathetic young woman helped the homeless man understand that there are good people in the world. It gave him strength and pushed him to fight against obstacles that life presented him with. Maybe he will even be able to start a new life. After meeting the homeless man, Casey posted the touching story on her social media. She did it because she wanted to inspire other young people to act kindly. She wrote that she hasn't seen the homeless man since that meeting and hopes that he began a new life. This seemingly simple story is very educational. The world is full of all kinds of people. Some are rich, some are poor, and some even live on a park bench. But you should never judge a book by its cover. Each one of us has a unique story, which determines our life. Not everyone is destined to live well. For some of us, to go to work, to spend evenings in front of the TV, and to eat good food is mundane. For others, it is something that they can only dream of. This story shows that a small act of compassion can not only change a person's day, but his or her entire life. Remember this and act kindly every day. Friends, what would you have done in Casey's place? Tell us your opinions in the comments. That's all for today. Rate the video and see you soon.
I definitely have done these things. Some of these people that I befriended, I'm still friends with. They've turned their lives around. Big time. Actually, they're doing better than I am. So, I believe it. That's why you try not to be a jerk. I think at this point everyone noticed or even felt the speed with which social inequality took over our world. Unfortunately, today only a small percentage of people have a median income. The majority of people are either extremely wealthy or way below the poverty line. I was homeless in Overtown, Florida for 6 years, addicted to drugs, and someone did the same for me, and now I'm almost 2 years clean, and I do the same for others. About 5 or more years ago, I was walking through a shopping plaza with my daughter. There was a tall, thin young man with a backpack digging through the trash. I asked him if I could buy him a pizza. Since I was on my way into a pizza shop, he looked up and had the most beautiful dark hair, olive skin, and bright blue eyes. With a sadly haunted look in his face, he said, "Actually, if you don't mind, I'd prefer a jar of peanut butter, a loaf of bread, because it lasts longer." I didn't have cash to hand him, so I convinced him to walk through the grocery store with me to buy the items with a few other things. He was embarrassed at first, and I said, "Please don't be. We're just two friends walking through the grocery store together." As we shopped, he told me his life story, and I listened humbly. He was from Oregon and was one of 3 siblings. Their parents were neglectful and simply never came home one day. He and his siblings wandered from the house after days of being home alone and hungry. They were eventually picked up by a state trooper while wandering on the highway and ended spending the rest of their childhood in foster care with even more neglectful treatment. He came to the East Coast as a young adult and ended up back on the streets again, which is where I met him. His story will remain with me for the rest of my life. After the grocery trip, I came back to the same area looking for him again many times, but never found him. I had a trunk full of resources for him, including local shelter contact info, etc. I pray that he is out there safe and has finally found a permanent home full of people who will never leave him, and is reunited with his siblings. I admire you. I really hope this is not a BS story. I promise that the story is 100% true. There's so many more details I wanted to write, but I thought it would be too long to read. I think of this young man often and remember his face as if it were yesterday. I'm not creative enough to fabricate a story like that. That's how I feel. I'm not creative. I just pray that he's safe out there in the world. I selfishly sometimes wonder if he remembers me too. That's all I can read. I just can't. I'll leave the link in the description. So, just try to do something nice for somebody. Just pay it forward. I